Hi there, and welcome to the Indie Pop Girl, the podcast where you'll find music chat, new releases, hidden gems, and nostalgic deep dives. I am back with another episode in my Albums That Surprise Me series, and today we'll be continuing with another release from 2024, and I'll be discussing Submarine by the Marías and why I regard this as a dream pop masterpiece. Submarine by the Marías was released on the 31st of May 2024 and is their second studio album following up from Cinema, which was released back in 2021. The production was handled by band member and multi-instrumentalist Josh Conway. When I discovered this record, I was unaware of the inspiration and backstory that eventually shaped Submarine. So gradually over time, I did some research online to get some context. And last week in my Billie Eilish episode, I talked about the concept of the artist having to suffer to create their art. And this is definitely the case for the Marías and this record. Lead vocalist and songwriter Maria Zardoya and Josh Conway were previously in a romantic relationship together. And after the completion of the Cinema tour, they broke up and the band ended up taking a 6-month hiatus. I can't imagine how difficult this must have been, especially for Maria and Josh, but for the rest of the band. I think the impact of the breakup could have potentially ended the band for good. I read that Maria wanted to end the band completely in 2022, but I am so glad that they found a way to carry on. They went to therapy, and Submarine is the result and the aftermath of the broken relationship between Maria and Josh. They are both credited as the songwriters on all 14 tracks, so I assumed that this was the emotional release for them. To be able to put any differences aside to write and create an album like this is quite remarkable. The Marías also took inspiration from the 1993 film 3 Colours Blue, starring Juliette Binoche. It's interesting that the last instalment of this film trilogy is 3 Colours Red, and the artwork for their previous record Cinema also had a red theme. And for Submarine, they have switched the colour palette to blue. I would assume that this would be intentional, and it would blow my mind if the follow-up to Submarine would switch to a white colour palette to tie in with 3 Colours White. I talk a lot about how important the artwork is to a record, as it can kind of give you a hint of what to expect, the sonics and the themes explored. The Marías absolutely nailed the assignment for Submarine, not only to be inspired by French cinema, but the artwork for this record is absolutely stunning. The blue colour and underwater theme are all threaded in all of the tracks, and you can feel the dreamy sonics just by looking at the image of Maria in the artwork. For a breakup record, you would expect that sonically it would be quite harsh or aggressive, but Submarine has its moments. Some of the lyrics are quite cutting at times, and I'll discuss further later on. But overall, Submarine is a pop record. A record that also dabbles with indie and synth pop, but mainly dream pop with hints of lounge and jazz, with lush and crisp production. So I was a little bit late on discovering Submarine. As I have discussed in previous episodes, 2024 was absolutely stacked for releases, and it was quite difficult keeping up with everything. I was aware of the single No One Noticed that was steadily rising in the charts, and I kept hearing it over reels on social media. I had it on my list to listen to, but it just kept slipping through the net. It was towards the end of the year that I fully discovered Submarine, when the new releases were slowing down and I was able to catch up on things fully. I am subscribed to one of my favourite music reaction channels via Patreon, Kevin and Connor from Turning the Tables. And I have to give them full credit here, as through their video, this was the point that I discovered Submarine for the very first time. As with all their videos, it was a complete joy to watch. I have included this album in my series because I knew it was an album that I wanted to check out, but the first time I heard Submarine was during that reaction video, and I didn't have any expectation. I thought, if I like what I hear, then I will listen to it properly in my own time. But I did things differently with this record. Usually I will sit with something on Spotify first to make up my mind, if it's from an artist that I am unfamiliar with. As soon as Kevin and Connor started to listen to the record, and especially with the first track, my mind was blown. As I watched the video and I was exposed to more tracks, I began to search for the vinyl, and this never happens. I wasn't even anywhere near the end of the record, and I was searching online for the vinyl, and I was struggling to find a copy. I eventually gave up searching and couldn't believe that it was out of stock. This does tend to happen when you discover a record a few months after the release. With record collecting, it also comes with patience, and after a lot of searching, I was able to track down a copy thanks to Vinyl Tap Records here in the UK. For a record to blow me away like this, I had to include it in the series. So, let's dive deep into the blue, dreamy soundscape of Submarine by the Marías. As I have mentioned in previous episodes, I will not be playing clips of the songs, so if you are curious, then please support the artists I cover by streaming, downloading or buying physical copies. Thank you. Track 1, Ride. This short interlude definitely gets your attention as soon as you hit play. The Sonics are right up my street here. An electronic production which is quite harsh but sets up the record perfectly. Marías' vocals are drenched in a robotic sheen, possibly the use of a vocoder or some heavy pitch shifting. I am a sucker for anything with a vocoder, and Marías sounds so cool on this track and just complements the electronic textures in the production. The first line in the song, "We Can Make a Movie," is a nod to their previous release Cinema, and here the sonics threaded throughout Submarine is very cinematic. I also interpret that line as the narrative of Maria and Josh's breakup. Their romantic relationship and demise is the story, and the lyrics on the record is the script. This also ties in with the inspiration of the film Three Colours Blue, which I referenced earlier on. You can definitely picture this track opening up a film. It's just got that quality about it. This track doesn't require further lyrics. It serves its purpose during the 1 minute and 21 seconds and sets up the narrative for the rest of the record. Track 2, Hamptons. The Hamptons of Long Island, New York is the inspiration of this track, known for the luxury, rich lifestyle, and the sonics and production of this mirrors the title of the song. It sounds so dreamy and breezy and symbolically rich. The lyrics using the Hamptons as a metaphor and represents the honeymoon phase of love. Maria has discussed that the song was inspired by visiting the Hamptons, and she confirmed that she wanted to dislike the area due to the lifestyle and opulence, but she found beauty and comfort in its aesthetics, and I can see where Maria is coming from. The dreamy instrumentation is like falling in love. Maria's breathy vocals just add to the texture and the atmosphere. I just want to talk about the refrain of "I'm a little bit in love." What is interesting is that Maria could have sung "I'm so in love" or "I'm falling in love," but "a little bit" introduces some uncertainty, some restraint and emotional distance. It's like she's testing the waters with the relationship and visiting the Hamptons. Emotionally, she's a little bit in love, not fully committed, possibly even resisting the depth of her feelings. Physically, she's entering a place, the Hamptons, she's expected to dislike, but finds herself slowly seduced by. I love how they let the instrumental just do its thing over the refrain, and Maria's vocals chopped up is just a nice touch. It captures the essence of what Submarine does so well, navigating love, desire, and emotional complexity in a way that's both stylish and understated. I just need to mention the synth keys that sound like raindrops within the production. Just great texture and keeps the water theme on point. Track 3, Echo. The dreaminess continues, but here the lyrics display some emotional pain and tells the listener that the cracks are there, and Maria knows this, but she just can't let go. The chorus links in with the previous track Hamptons, suggesting that the honeymoon phase is no more. Maria sings, "This is over dramatic, headed back from New York, 'cause we both know that this situation's out of control." Verse 2 is bleak. Maria sings, "I landed, then I felt myself decay, was crying out for help, but no one came," suggesting that Josh has left Maria and she's all alone. It's a stark contrast to the gorgeous production. I love songs that are bleak and dark lyrically, but are matched with an upbeat instrumental. They could have turned this into a piano ballad or stripped it down, but we are blessed with some dream pop. Maria's vocals and her tone remind me of Mika from Magdalena Bay. There is some similar softness here. Let me know if you've made that observation too. The bridge is so beautifully written. Maria sings, "The moon turned black when I left you. Your t-shirt's still on my back. Got lifetimes left to forget you. I should have turned back, but I wasted it all for nothing, for a light that'll never last. Now I stand at your front door, hoping that you'll take me back." It's interesting how Maria says "back" 3 times in that bridge. I think it's creating a circular emotional motion, like she's stuck in a loop with the echo representing the failed relationship. It is following and reminding Maria everywhere until she can finally let go. Track 4, Run Your Mouth. This catchy, funky number is where Maria stops holding back. The tone shifts, but the production is still sleek. There are some great synths and funky bass, and I love that guitar that comes in after the chorus. The groove is bouncy and almost playful, but don't let the upbeat nature fool you. Maria is addressing Josh, who has talked a lot behind her back. There are some really clever lyrics on display here. The line, "You're on my case," could mean that Josh is judging or having an opinion on everything that Maria does, constantly nitpicking at your every move. Or it could tie in with the underwater theme of the album's artwork. Maria could feel like she is the submarine, feeling emotionally isolated and moving on through pressure and darkness, with the "you're on my case" being a metaphor for the water, the constant criticism and pressure that she feels from her ex partner. One of the most devastating lines in Run Your Mouth is that "you only hold me when I'm on my knees." On the surface, it's about emotional imbalance, that love only shows up when she's broken. But there's a sexual undertone too, adding a whole new layer of exploitation. Whether she's begging for comfort or performing for affection, the result is the same. The intimacy is conditional. The line is soft spoken, but it cuts like a knife. She knows that this is all manipulative and not healthy, and there are hints of toxicity between the two of them. I still find it staggering that they were able to create and write together, especially on this track and the previous Echo. I wonder how Josh felt when hearing these songs written about him. It's a bit like the Rumours record by Fleetwood Mac, just shots fired at each other, but still having to face the shots fired by performing the songs on tour. My only criticism of this track is that it's too short. I could definitely have another minute or so of that instrumental for sure. Track 5, Real Life. The production of this is so smooth. It is the best way I can describe it. You feel like you are floating in the ocean with the sun in your eyes, all hazy. The intro is so dreamy and there are some great synths in the background. That guitar that comes in after the chorus is so satisfying. The musicianship of this record is immaculate. They just know what sounds go together and what sounds pleasing to the ears. Maria is telling the listener in the first two verses of what she wants the relationship to be in real life. But in the chorus, she tells us that she can't stand another white lie and another goodbye, hinting the fact that all of this is just a fantasy in her head. The lush production is so clean and everything is well balanced. Ambient synths float in the background and the percussion is subtle, and it's what dream pop should sound like to me. The gorgeous outro with the fade out is just so on point. Track 6, Blur. A bit of a shift here with the trip hop style beat. I love Maria's vocals with a reverb echo effect. The mixing on this track is just immaculate. The verses are quite moody, but when the chorus comes in and opens up, the atmosphere is so dreamy. The track progresses to the bridge where the instrumentation becomes heavier and then it just comes right back down to the dreaminess. It's clever how the songs go to places and you don't expect it to, with the pitch vocals that come in during the outro. Maria is refusing to elaborate inside the mess that I guess I built, that she sings in verse 2. The memories are still raw and painful for her. The song's title may allude to Maria's memories eventually becoming a blur, or to describe the relationship that is broken down. She is hinting to the emotional damage left behind, and that I guess adds some hesitation and uncertainty, but she is not elaborating. It's got a little bit of a jazzy vibe in the verses with the groove, and if you listen to this on headphones, you can hear some distant trumpet in the production. It is subtle, and attention to detail like that I always appreciate. Track 7, Paranoia. I love the guitar tone of this when it comes in during the intro, and it instantly reminded me of the Cocteau Twins, especially the Heaven or Las Vegas record. Paranoia is a perfect slice of indie pop. That synth melody over the chorus and then the guitar that follows is just so good. The lyrics, and I'm sure a lot of people will relate to this, is exploring paranoia that can occur in a romantic relationship and the anxiety that comes with it. The anxiety and fear from the paranoia and the jealousy that eats away. People who experience this think that their partner is lying or hiding things from them, being secretive, not knowing if they're going to be left all alone or finding out that someone has been cheating. I have experienced some of these things in my life and it's really unpleasant. The pre-chorus, heavy on my mind every time you cry, don't know what to do, sit and stare at you. At first glance sounds tender, but there is something a bit sinister going on with this line. When you look closer, and especially when you place it in the context of the accusations of cheating and the track's title, a very different dynamic emerges. It sounds like empathy, but it feels like something darker, maybe even manipulative. Her partner cries, possibly to make her feel guilty, even while accusing her of cheating. But María's beyond reacting. She's emotionally numb, with no emotion, and all she can do is stare. Later, María sings, "Tell me what to do, can't get through to you." She is not getting anything from her partner. The accusations, doesn't notice her despite her love and devotion to this person. And the song ends by María repeating, "I keep running away," like a mantra that she is telling herself. It is one of my favourites on the record, which is difficult picking out standouts because they are all incredible. Track 8, La Hostility. After the mental fog and claustrophobia of paranoia, La Hostility feels like a breath of fresh air, but one that's bittersweet. The Latin vocals by María, and that choice is deeply meaningful. By shifting languages, María is not just switching tongues, she's shifting perspective. There's distance in this track, linguistic and emotional. I love how the instrumental just explodes in the chorus, which gives the emotional impact, and you can really feel the longing in María's voice. She's far from the person she loved, but still feels their presence. There's no blame here, no bitterness, just a painful clarity of knowing it's time to let go. After the spirals of paranoia, this track feels like a deep exhale. It's tender, introspective, and so dreamy, and sounds like you are floating in the ocean alone. They capture the water theme with immaculate flair, and this track wouldn't sound out of place in a film. Track 9, Love You Anyway. Oh, here we fucking go. This was the track that I was absolutely ascended the first time I heard it. Love You Anyway is totally drenched in reverb with dream pop textures, and I love this shit. The production is absolutely perfect, and it is what I gravitate towards with dream pop. It is so dreamy and sounds like you are floating in water. You can just close your eyes and get lost in the dreamscape. The guitars and vocals here, washed in a sea of reverb, is just perfectly mixed with the synths, and it creates that soft echoing shimmer typical of classic dream pop, such as Beach House and Cocteau Twins, which I am here for. María's vocals and the pre-chorus instantly reminded me of Mika from Magdalena Bay. The tone, the delivery, and I would just lose my fucking mind if Magdalena Bay covered the Marías. That would be so awesome. I could listen to that chorus forever, and I would never tire of it. That outro is probably my favourite part in the entire record, with the instrumental and the water sounds that come in. I said previously that they nailed the assignment with the concept, and this track is proof of that. The musicianship and the attention to detail is off the scale. It is interesting that Josh is on backing vocals and singing with Maria here, and this song kind of confirms that they still have feelings for each other, and she will just love him anyway. For a breakup record, Submarine is surprisingly sensual and even sexy. It is emotionally rich, tender at times, and intimate. Maria's soft and breathy vocals is a perfect match to the dreamy and seductive production. It is probably the sexiest breakup album ever created. Track 10, I No Puedo. So, the first time I heard this track, I thought of the TV show Strictly Come Dancing here in the UK. This track would be perfect for a routine, and it needs to happen. It's funny the things you think about when listening to music, but it just has that sensual vibe. The production is smooth, clean, and some lovely guitar and percussion work. This still remains cohesive, and the placement is perfect in the track list. The Marías have definitely thought out the sequencing of this record, and it has the perfect flow. The record is an experience on headphones, but also Submarine was made for vinyl, and it sounds absolutely incredible. The song's title, translated to Oh I Can't or Oh I'm Unable, is expressing dismay or frustration. I read that this is a common Spanish phrase and often comes with a touch of frustration or lament. The pain of seeing her ex moving on with another lover is too much for Maria, and she captures the heartbreak and longing so beautifully here. Track 11, No One Noticed. This was released as the third single, and the song slowly became popular through TikTok. I saw a clip of Billie Eilish singing to this on Instagram, and I would love it if Billie covered this. It's definitely got a somber tone, and Maria's vocals almost whisper-like in the delivery. The lines in verse 1, Maria is honest with her feelings, singing, Maybe I lost my mind, no one noticed. That's so heartbreaking, that she has been isolated and suffering alone with her feelings. The trauma of the breakup has fucked her up, and she's been struggling internally, and no one has noticed or reached out or helped her. I think that people will connect and relate to this. You can be surrounded by people or even with loved ones, and no one would notice what is going on in your mind and the internal struggle that people face in life. Not just in relationships, but the internal struggle that could be at work or money worries, health, etc. We all crave that connection, and Maria confirms in the song, I'd like it if you'd call me. I need a virtual connection. She has a desire for emotional support and interaction, but it's interesting that she follows this up with Be My Video Obsession, which could mean that her ex is far away in another city, away from Maria, and therefore she wants to hook up with him virtually online. She misses him so much, and she will do anything just to be closer to him. It could be interpreted as late night video calls or webcam encounters. It could suggest an online hookup or a relationship that only exists through screens. There's intimacy here, but it's filtered through fantasy and distance. She's not asking to be loved, she's asking to be watched, replayed, maybe even objectified. It's a line that captures Submarine's recurring tension between desire and emotional disconnection. Track 12, Vicious, Sensitive Robot. Just the title alone got me intrigued, and to me, it ties in with Marías' robotic vocoder delivery in the first track, Ride. The instrumental definitely reminds me of Massive Attack with the groove and beat. And when the strings come in, it just opens up and has that cinematic feel, reminiscent of Massive Attack's Live With Me. And Marías' vocal tone and delivery here just reminded me of Hope Sandoval of Mazzy Star, especially her contribution to Massive Attack's Paradise Circus track. Both tracks have a sinister vibe running throughout the production. It's quite unsettling but dark and dreamy at the same time. Again, interesting that Josh pops up on backing vocals on this track and just adds to the unsettling vibe, knowing that they were an item. The vicious, sensitive robot could be Maria, or it could be her ex, or maybe it's both of them. Two people who have been worn down by a relationship that forced them into emotional shutdown. There's a deep irony in the title. How can someone be vicious and sensitive and robotic? But that's exactly what happens when love turns defensive. You still feel everything, but you don't know how to show it. So you hide behind sarcasm, stillness, or silence. And eventually, you lose sight of who's hurting who. Track 13, If Only. We take a bit of a sonic turn with If Only. This short track is mainly a piano ballad with some gorgeous heartfelt vocals from Maria. Inspired by Tom Waits, it's lyrically sparse, but it doesn't need anything extra added. It is straightforward and simple, but packs a punch. The trumpet solo that comes in is so effective. It just works in this track, and I am not a big fan of trumpets in general, but here, imagine a small smoky club with a spotlight on Maria accompanied by her band. It belongs in a jazz club, but also in a film during a montage. This is perfect as the penultimate track, and I would love to hear this one live. Track 14, Sienna. The closing track, but what a haunting and emotionally cutting finale it is. The lyrics describing Maria's desire to have a child and calling her Sienna. But eventually the idea of this fades, like the fading relationship, and Maria realises that this won't become a reality for her. The loss of the relationship, but also the loss of a child that never existed. It is absolutely heartbreaking and devastating. When Maria sings, like when I sang you a love song by Norah Jones, it doesn't just feel like a memory, it feels like the moment she imagined Sienna might have been conceived. There's something sacred about it, and she follows that line with, would have been cute, would look just like you. And suddenly, this isn't just a breakup ballad, it's a goodbye to a future family, a child, a life that never came to be. That lyric becomes a timestamp, a soft, secret moment between two people that now echoes with what could have been. Maria imagines the characteristics of Sienna in the bridge, reminding her of her ex-partner and his qualities. She's also reflecting and looking back, heading towards the outro, and she sings, and I smile when I think of all the times we had. letting go of the anxieties of what was explored in the previous tracks, that they were good together, and it's nice that she can remember this at the end of the record. She also remembers Sienna and what could have been. Down by the water, crystal clear, see her face in the forest, then it disappears. Fucking wow. I was floored when I reached the end of the album for the first time. Just beautiful writing, and I appreciate the water theme threaded into this song for the closer. It wraps up everything so beautifully, and thank God that Maria and Josh were able to work through their relationship and that they created a dream pop masterpiece in Submarine. Submarine is not your typical breakup album. It slowly sinks into you in a seductive fashion. Across 14 tracks, the Marías take us on a journey through longing, emotional disconnection, fantasy, and the quiet ache of letting go. It's an album about heartbreak, yes, but also about memory and the futures that never happened. And that's what makes Submarine so emotionally rich, combined with the immaculate, clean and crisp production, the musicianship on display, and the honest lyrics. The album has been widely praised by critics for its emotional complexity, stylistic cohesion, and evolution in sound. Pitchfork called it more focused and more vulnerable than anything the Marías have made before. And NME described it as a slow, sad, stunning heartbreak record that floats in its own dreamy atmosphere. I have loved revisiting Submarine in preparation for this episode, and if you aren't familiar with the Marías and this record, then I urge you to check it out. If you love dreamy synth pop, floaty soundscapes, then this is the record for you. With its blurred edges, sultry textures, and bilingual storytelling, Submarine invites you to sit with your feelings, not rush past them. It's an album you don't just hear, you feel, long after it ends. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Please follow me on Instagram and Threads at the Indie Pop Girl. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could follow and share, as it helps other music lovers to find the show. I am also on YouTube. You can find me at the Indie Pop Girl podcast, and I'll be grateful if you could subscribe, as I'm creating content, shorts, and posting teasers for upcoming episodes. I've also created a public Spotify playlist and added some of my favourite tracks from the artists that I've already covered, and as the episodes grow, I'll be adding more. So if you are curious with any of the artists and albums that I have covered, please give it a listen, and who knows, you might find a new discovery. You can find me on Spotify at the Indie Pop Girl, and the playlist is called Favourite Tracks from Podcast Episodes. I'll be back very soon with the next episode in my Albums That Surprised Me series, and it's going to be a total change of pace. I'll be discussing an album that blew up in 2024 from a pop artist who is already a superstar, so I hope you can join me. Until then, I'm Rachel, the Indie Pop Girl. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.